Well, why don't we simply start off with introductions? That's always a good way to go. Daniel, you like to go first?
Okay, I'm Daniel Krawitz. I wrote articles for the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute. I'm a software engineer at Stash Crypto. Check me out on Twitter and YouTube at Daniel Krawitz.
Hey, I'm Bruce Fenton. I've been in the space a little while, done a couple different things, worked for some industry groups and do a little bit of investing and a couple other things. Yeah, I'm on Twitter also.
That was way too short for what you do. Hi, I'm Dmitry. I'm known online as Rasa. I've been in the Bitcoin space for quite a while. I have a background in IT, finance, economics. Been involved with a couple of companies in Bitcoin and did consulting for Bitcoin.
I'm Paul Snow. I like to claim that I run the Texas Bitcoin Conference. Actually, my wife does, but I get to take credit. And there are a whole bunch of other people that I can't mention. I'm also founder and inventor of Factom, and been in the cryptocurrency space since 2012, something like that.
Great. So today we have a fairly free-form panel here, and it's cool that we've got such an interesting mix. You know, a lot of depth on the technical side, on the investing side, and I guess we could define drama a lot of ways. I presume the reference has something to do with the upcoming fork and the main drama that has consumed the space for the last few years. And so maybe get opinions from the folks here about what they think is going to happen, what the root of the issue is, and where they see things going forward would be a good place to start. And then a little while, we'll open it up to audience participation and really dig in. Daniel, you want to start us?
Oh, okay. Well, I never make predictions, so I'm not going to predict anything. I just am excited to see what happens. And the root cause is the developers of Bitcoin think that they're in charge, but really the investors are in charge. And they do not recognize that reality well enough yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll probably think that's wise to stay away from predictions. I think my prediction is that things are going to be okay. You know, I predicted that last time we had this fork. There was people on each side saying doom and gloom, and it's going to destroy the other one. And you know, the thing with this stuff is that there's code, and people want to run certain code, and other people want to run other code, and that's all there is to it, really. And I don't know why everybody's so worried about what other people run on code. Just run whatever code you want, and if you think it has value, you can invest in it or do other things. But you know, I think the root of the problem is people get so worked up with what they believe that they want to force others to do it. Yeah, that's what I think.
I'm really terrible with predictions. I bought my Prius with 1,000 Bitcoins back when Bitcoin was $22. And then March or May of that year, Bitcoin went to $250. At this point, I have a $6 million Prius. It's a really nice car. That being said, I predict that Bitcoin will be $1 million in 10 years, and Craig Wright will sign the Bitcoin block to prove he's Satoshi. So there you go. But I suck at predictions.
Oh, those are bold.
Actually, yeah. Actually, I think eventually Bitcoin will probably be $1 million just out of attrition. I mean, fiat currencies have a lifespan of 27 years, so dollar's a little long. Eventually, Bitcoin is an open source currency. It's not going anywhere. As for the forks, my opinion is that it's a fight between a very heavy technology group that's not very good at business and economics versus very heavy business economics group that might not be as great in technology. So each group has their own arguments, and technically they're both right, but who's going to win is going to be up to, I guess, investors.
Paul?
Well, I'll make a similar prediction. I believe that Bitcoin will be a $10 million coin at some point, and Happy Meals will also cost $10,000. So it's just a question of the timing between the two.
So you're not saying those will both happen at the same time?
No, I'm not, but I am pointing out the amazing uncertainty of trying to assign value to either token in this world, the dollar token or the Bitcoin token. I also think that SegWit 2x differs a great deal from Bitcoin Cash. It's designed to be a contentious fork, which means without changing the code, it's unlikely that both the 2x and the Bitcoin Core will proceed forward unless they put replay protection in and they correct one of the or the other corrects the difficulty.
Well,
equation.
Paul, I
So-
have to put forward a technical correction there because there is absolutely a foolproof means of replay protection already deployed because fees will be so high on one chain and they'll be so low on the other. You just do a low fee transaction, you know it'll only go on one chain. And there you go, problem solved.
Well, but you have to do two things. And how many of you do not know what replay protection is? Okay, there's just a few people. The idea when you fork like this, where you have a common base, a transaction placed on one chain can also be recorded on the other chain. In other words, it can be replayed on the other chain. And let's say you had a bank account at Bank of America and one at Wells Fargo. If you write a check against your account at Bank of America, you'd be really mad if that also moved funds out of your Bank of America account. You want these to be separate, and that's replay protection. And the 2x engineers are, to date, I believe, purposely not adding replay protection.
Opt-in. I think it's just opt-in.
Well, no, I think they got rid of that opt-in. Didn't it have a security problem? Anyway.
So if they wanted a neutral moderator, they didn't get one because in 2016, in October of last year, I wrote "Embrace the Coming Bitcoin Fork" because knew a lot of these people involved, and for the reasons you guys have said, there wasn't going to be a resolution. Unfortunately, despite the great efforts of Bruce and many others that tried to mediate this process, and my slogan is: forking is a feature of the industry, not a bug. And to your point about code, you can run any code you like, and that's the freedom we get with Bitcoin and blockchain. The ability to choose your own software is really fundamental. And so personally, I'm very much looking forward to November 15th or 16th, whatever it ends up being, because I hope it will be an end to some of the drama and you can simply choose what you believe and put your money in your software there. So, but Daniel, you had another comment?
Oh, yeah. Well, I wanted to disagree with Paul there because I don't want to keep the fork separate for me. I want to make sure I get the same thing mined on each one. It's more convenient that way because I want to make sure that I'm okay whichever one wins. So I want to keep them the same. To me, a fork is just investors disagree about the true history of Bitcoin. So, I want to get involved in the disagreement as much as I want to. And the default is I keep everything the same everywhere. Then I am safe no matter which one wins. So I don't want them to be separate. I don't like replay protection. That's inconvenient for me.
Paul, would you like to respond to that bold or perhaps Bruce is picking it up?
Yeah, I think whichever chain implements replay protection is the chain that's signaling that, oh crap, we are going to lose, because replay protection is specifically to keep your chain from losing to the higher hash chain. So I don't want replay protection because I'm a Bitcoin maximalist and I don't like other coins and I want there to be only one coin, and with replay we'll have two coins, so screw replay.
Yeah, and that's the important point. Without replay, there's one coin and one has to win in general, and that's why this is different than Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash back in August had replay protection, so they had two coins. So everybody thought coming into it realized if they had Bitcoin at August 1st, they were going to get two coins on the other side. I think a lot of the interest in Bitcoin this time is they think it's the same thing. I'm warning you that it probably isn't. It could be, but there would have to be changes that we don't see yet. So right now, that's probably not a great reason to buy Bitcoin because you're going to bet on this.
If you're worried, you're my prey.
There you go.
Nice.
All right. Great. Great. Well, why don't we open it up to the audience a little bit? I'm sure you guys have interesting questions on this topic, and we get through all the questions. Maybe we'll open up a whole nother drama question. But Ernie, you're the man. Oh, he's loud enough. He's good without the mic. Here you go.
Wait, what?
He's asking which one will win out, but I think we already answered that. No predictions, no predictions.
Bitcoin.
I'm too lazy to think about it.
I've only spent every waking hour in this space for 5 years and met probably more people than almost anybody, and I have absolutely no clue what's going on.
I will tell you this. If you believe the signaling from the miners, SegWit 2x wins. If you believe what code people are running, Bitcoin Core wins. There has to be an upgrade to the miners. And then there's the other side. Is mining going to be the thing that determines which chain moves forward and carries the value, or is it users running nodes? I tend to fall into, I don't care. I tend to fall into the category that mining will drive it. The users have some feedback on that aspect, but I don't think it's strong enough. So I think mining holds it.
We got a question. One last year that we're going to do.
No, neither is in control. Investors are in control. Miners are secondary. Investors are the rulers. People who run the software, they're in third place.
Miners are investors. They're the one who are incentive to mine and sell it, so they're the biggest and main investors in the whole thing.
They're invested in mining machines. They're not invested in the coins as much. It's like, I mean, I see your point, but there's a difference.
Because they slide anywhere.
I think you need all three. You need developers, because it is a software program, and without developers, there's no software. You need miners to validate what's true, and you need users and investors to use it. And historically, whenever one group thinks that they're better than the others, that's the group that's about to get wrecked.
That's why everybody likes Bruce. He doesn't like to upset anybody. Everybody's right.
No, I don't want to interrupt this is what has been my concern from the beginning. We've been covering it for a long time. And what I'm worried about is, as you have the alternative coins, fine, it's good to have competition is good. It's not a sin, says Rockefeller. The one thing that I'm looking at is when it forks, which one eventually is going to fork and GovCoin, okay? I'm looking at the philosophy that's being supported with the tech. So I look at which one of these is doing the better job. Well, Bitcoin, it seems to me, it keeps getting more and more compliant. There's going to be more and more GovCoin. Might as well just call GoldmanSucks.GovCoin or something. So I'm wondering, is that precluded? Is it not going to happen? Because sooner or later, there's going to be, it's just a little bit of a kind of a, surveillance grid of we get to turn you off. So is that a threat? Is it going to happen? I'm glad all these others are happening so that doesn't happen.
No, because this whole fighting is over a relatively minor change. If you ever were to put something into the Bitcoin process to suggest something that's sort of on the more authoritarian kind of side, it would be met with huge resistance. At least right now, the way the community is now and the way that everything works now, that can change. There's certainly risks in the future, but right now it's really, really, really difficult to change Bitcoin into GovCoin. It's been the most resistant to it so far.
What matters is which rules are going to be the most valuable, and the most valuable rules are the ones that are going to give people the most autonomy. So GovCoin will lose. It'll lose value. The one that'll gain value is the one that gives people the best autonomy, that gives them the ability to evade capital controls and inflation.
Here's the thing. If we get GovCoin, and GovCoin's really a blockchain, thus that's hard to censor, then you have created the best on-ramp to anonymous technology that you could imagine, straight out of the government coin into whatever coin provides that freedom of exchange and freedom from surveillance kinds of features. And Ernie, I'm your statist friend. And I haven't... I want that. I want that wide adoption. I look at this as honesty is subversive. If we can push them thinking that they're getting what they want into blockchain technologies that don't actually allow them to censor transactions and don't actually allow them to prevent the value from moving into better and more safe and secure private channels for transactions, then they lose. Because it's just a little bit here, a little bit there before we're not being ruled by regulations. We're ruled by math and fairness and reputation.
Amen. So GovCoin actually is coming, right? Because the yuan, Swiss, Singapore, a bunch of places are announcing they're going to put Russia, they're going to put a currency on the blockchain. But to the points made earlier, either it's going to be so crippled and so controlled, and still they're going to set the monetary policy. And if you inflate a lot on a blockchain versus inflating by, going through the printing press, people still aren't going to want that. So I don't think it's going to compete. The thing is, you've got big network effects with these legacy currencies, and so how long they stick around versus how long they get out competed, that's the question.
To the newbies, GovCoin isn't government coin. I disagree with all of you. So yes, there's definitely going to be GovCoin. The way I look at this whole debate is Bitcoin is Linux circa 1990s. GovCoin would be Microsoft circa 1995. Like 99.99% of the people in the world don't give a crap about this whole sovereignty thing. They just want to use something that's very convenient, very quick, and very cheap. If somebody's tracking what they're doing with their money, they're putting their whole lives on Facebook anyway. So if Bitcoin does what it's doing right now, I'm afraid it is going to end up as Linux until it actually starts kind of developing much, much, much later. Because right now, the way I see the whole debate in the Bitcoin developer community is, hey, let's create PGP to give emailers a secure way to encrypt their messages. And then when PGP doesn't take off and everybody's using Gmail, they're like, well, let's add more cryptography to PGP. Maybe that'll help. I mean, it's a stupid idea, but whatever.
What do you think about, so basically if we don't want government intervention and there's a lot of anonymous currencies out there, what do you think about them proliferating in terms of this crypto space?
I think the only way to solve this problem is to make Bitcoin itself be easier, cheaper, and more convenient to use than alternative currency, so that people who don't care about the whole anonymity thing will start using it, and then all the rest of us who do care can hide kind of within the bigger group. Because if we don't do that, then we're going to be the couple of like black market drug dealers who are trying to sell drugs among all the legalized pharmacies type of stuff.
Yeah, there's really only two ways that government can beat Bitcoin. One is by force and violence, which doesn't really work that well against math. Tanks versus math, math wins. So that's one way they can attack it. They can attack it with all their silly little Ben Losky stuff, which doesn't work. It just makes people root around it and go where there's freedom. The other way they can attack it is with competition by making something better, which is really, really laughable. I mean, who's the developers for these GovCoins? Is Peter Todd jumping on a plane to go do GovCoin? I mean, they can't possibly hire anybody who has a clue. And even if they did, it's just going to be pre-mined, non-transparent scam coin that's totally centralized. If it was an ICO, it would be illegal. It's going to be a total scam, and people are dumb, but they're not that dumb. They're not going to. Nobody's going to look at it and say, "Oh, I've got this Bitcoin money, but hey, this has this special shield on it."
I think people are that dumb.
But there's a growing number of us every single day.
You just have to make sure the dumb people lose money as quickly as possible.
They are. They're down 90% a year.
But as far as do I think altcoins are a problem? I think that because wasn't that your question? What about the altcoins?
Well, like just more the anonymous aspect of
Right. Well, the thing is that any coin that provides a service that Bitcoin really just doesn't, it's not really an alternative coin because that implies Bitcoin could do it. So a lot of these coins, they may fail and everything, but they're the science lab to test how you can be more private, how you can be more anonymous, how you can be more secure, how you can have better infrastructure, how you could shard, all these questions that we want to answer in the Bitcoin space. Well, almost surely, just like we saw with Litecoin implementing SegWit and implementing Lightning and all that before Bitcoin, the altcoins can move faster and they will show the way.
All right, we got time for like one more question. Yep.
So for the last couple of years, Bitcoin's been locked in this scaling debate, and you had your big block guys and the Bitcoin Cash guys that are saying, well, look, if we want to get lower fees and we want to get the rest of the world involved and the people that are living on $1 a day, that sort of thing, we got to figure out, a way to scale this, make it cheaper and make it faster. And I'm not saying everybody's involved in that, but now that we have SegWit, I guess everyone's been so focused on these forks and all the drama that comes with it. I haven't heard much discussion of, Lightning Network and sidechains and additional scaling solutions. So maybe for the tech guys on stage, could you give us an idea of, how close are we to Lightning networks and payment channels, second layer solutions, things like that will ideally bring fees down and allow the other billions of people in the world to be able to use Bitcoin and have it achieve the scaling that I think everybody here wants to see?
Lightning is illegal, and so it's going to be very hard to deploy in the U.S. Without some of the laws that have been proposed by the Digital Chamber of Commerce that you're not a money service business, money transfer business if you don't have custodianship of the funds. But right now, the magic of Lightning is the ability to route money through people to a destination where you don't have a channel. And that would make everybody a money transfer business, money service business between A and B. And that means none of the businesses will do it because they'll have a name and an identity and they don't want to have legal liability. That leaves individuals, but if individuals can't pay stores and for goods and services, then it's just dead in the water.
I don't know about the comment about it legal being illegal, and maybe hopefully if there's a million money transmitters, maybe it's one of these laws that people just widely ignore.
I guess as someone was insight into product development, to answer your question of how long, I would probably guess no less than 5 years.
All right, sounds good. That's all the time we've got. Big round of applause for our panel.
Don't we have this until 1? Look on your schedules. Don't. We're going to do an encore.
Encore!
I'm Paul Snow. I was the inventor of 20 additional minutes to this panel. Thank you.
He forked.
Very good. But put some more minutes up there, Scott. We're gonna add to this thing. Oh, we got Stephen right here in the front row. Yes, sir.
So my question in this is actually around the context of automatic money. I think the more we move towards different aspects of utility tokens and other services that people are expecting where your machine is going to spend your money, it's a really interesting question to think about the other end of the spectrum where as an owner of the money, because I own the money I put on my machine, I actually want then tremendous controls over the machine spending. So it's an interesting thing when you create somebody, you can almost think of them as the god of their machine. You want the machine to be a slave and only follow the policy. And so I think this whole Internet of Things space, the beginnings of how we will use machines to automatically spend utility type money, actually will introduce a whole interesting set of technologies and conversations around the other end of the spectrum where I want to have known money spent in a known manner, in a known condition, by a known device, because I own that device. It can still be anonymous in the network, but you want a lot of controls around it. Otherwise, your machines might give away all your money to the first good-looking bot that comes by.
Good point. Good point. Somebody want to address that?
Well, any action that's automatic can be manipulated. So, yeah, I think that would be great if my machines were all totally under my control. I don't know if I would do anything automatic with them, though.
You've seen the Terminator, right? I mean, if we give all our money to machines and the machines figure out that they can just spend it without us, what are we good for?
Yeah, I was really proud of my AI robot because it designed some art and went on eBay and sold the art. I said, wow, my AI robot's genius. And I said to the robot, I said, hey, you made us some Bitcoin. And the robot says, what do you mean us?
See, the promise, well, one thing about the control is what Stephen's going to do is trusted execution so that you can at least know that whatever bug you have is a bug that was not necessarily anticipated, and so whatever. It is some help. But here's the deal with the blockchain, and this is the here with distributed autonomous applications, and this is the deal with the Terminator. It turns out that Skynet is not going to seek to kill us all. We're just going to be its employees. And we're going to be reliant upon the blockchain for our income rather than human-run corporations. And that the intelligence of the system is going to be the distributed, emergent organizations and behaviors that come from a distributed set of processes that interact in a certain way. Some of those ways will be unpredictable. Some of them, like the DAO, quite manipulatable. But please understand, this is very early. Keep in mind, they decided one time as a big show to run 2 trains together and killed 40 people because they weren't sitting far enough back. Trains were the blockchain of the 1800s, and we're now faced with the blockchain now, and there are dangers. We are going to see train wrecks. We are going to misunderstand the dangers, but you don't have any trouble. Well, we didn't have any trouble in Shanghai sitting on a mag lift train running 240 kilometers, 400 kilometers per hour. I was just so blown away I can't even remember it.
Yeah, I'm actually involved in maglev, and I know that project is a big money waster. There was just publicity, and it's not going to take off. Sorry, maglev is not quite there yet. But what you said, it didn't crash, but it is sinking in the tar sands, and it's not going to last very long. But what you actually said kind of brings us back to the very first question. We have a group of techno people who don't understand business economics, and we have a group of business economics people who kind of understand the tech, but not so much. And what you're talking about, I fear might bring us to the group of techno people who don't know business economics, and we end up in like some really awful techno-communism, which I would really not want to be involved in.
Okay, I'm decidedly not a technical guy, but I've gotten into this fairly recently in this investing. And I also lived in Moscow for 3 months, so I followed what was going on there. Now, as I understand it, what Putin has done and is about to institute is a type of cryptocurrency, which is in fact the ruble. It's the digital ruble. And his rules are that if we can tell where your money is coming from, fine, go ahead and invest it. If not, we want a tax of 13%. So if you're, I don't know, doing prostitution, drugs, arms, and all kinds of weird stuff, we'll accept that as long as we get our 13%. But we want to, if we don't know where your money's coming from, then I ask myself this: what did I have to do to get into the blockchain? Now, I've bought so far from 2 different places, both of which required my bank account and everything else. So if I get audited by IRS and they say, oh, you made a withdrawal here, and I go, well, blockchain, you can't find out about it, I think that falls apart. So my question is, how is this thing really so private in the first place? Because, yeah, maybe once it's in the blockchain, but you have to get it in the blockchain. And then my second follow-up question is, I keep hearing Venezuela. Venezuela is a shithole right now. Now, if I was in Venezuela, how would I make use of my Bitcoin?
With Venezuela, there's a very, very large market of in-person black market kind of exchanges. There's even hotels that will let you pay Bitcoin to get rooms or put in Bitcoin, get dollars. So Venezuela effectively forced a lot of people to become small banks. With regards to Russia, Russia has this thing where they try to keep their wealthy people hostage. So if you have money, like if you have millions of dollars in the bank and you want to move it into another country, they'll try to tax you a lot of money in. What I'm suspecting they might be doing with what you mentioned is a lot of people made a lot of money, maybe kind of on a down low. If they want to switch and force everybody into this new blockchain ruble and make the old one obsolete, that's basically another way for them to do a cash grab. Kind of like when India switched their currency from, like, they made the other one obsolete, they also made it so that up to a certain point, your money you can convert, everything else, if you don't have proof where it came from, you have to pay taxes. So that one I see is more of a tax grab. Sorry, I forgot what the last part was. Oh, and yeah, and that's what I was talking about with regards to the goal for Bitcoin should be that it's easy and cheap enough for everybody to use so that people who don't care about privacy use it, and then you don't have to use third-party exchanges. You just spend your Bitcoin on whatever you need to buy. If we keep doing it where it's really hard to use, but we focus on the privacy, where nobody's using it, you're always going to have the problems of finding somebody on the street or something to get your money out. I'm actually having that issue right now too. Like one of the exchanges is asking me for proof of funds, and I'm having to send them like an invoice for a video card that I bought like 5 years ago to mine it with. It's a pain in the butt.
You're best off if you just stay in Bitcoin. Don't think about going back to the dollar once you're in. Bitcoin is the escape. Don't try to go back into prison. Just keep some dollars around and eat with those.
So for those who aren't familiar with it, you can buy virtually anything with Bitcoin. I'd recommend checking out a service called purse.io, and it actually connects into Amazon. So you can say, oh, I really wanted, a bicycle for my kid, and you put it onto your Amazon wish list. It connects into Purse, and someone will buy it, send it to your house, and it automatically sends them Bitcoin in exchange. You can normally get it for 10, 20% less than the prices on Amazon. The way it's working is most of these people buying stuff on Amazon are Amazon workers. If you're familiar, who's familiar with Amazon Turk, right? The service that lets people in the developing world or anywhere, do these little tasks and earn some Amazon credit. Well, okay, well, how do they use that Amazon credit? Well, they can go to purse.io, use their Amazon credits, send somebody something, and they get some Bitcoin in their wallet, and then they turn it into local currency. So at this point, the last time I checked, 100,000 plus merchants that take Bitcoin. I mean, look at the people that use BitPay or Coinbase or others. So a lot of solutions to actually use it directly. Yeah.
You mentioned GYFT.
I would also point out he asked how he would eat with Bitcoin. Some of us, we could call that the Bitcoin diet. If you can't buy it with Bitcoin, you don't eat it. I've lost 40 pounds. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been living almost exclusively off Bitcoin since 2014. I kind of switched to credit cards recently to build up credit. But GYFT, it's a gift service, lets you buy gift cards. And for groceries, just buy a Target gift card with your Bitcoin and buy groceries from Target. That's it.
The point that I wanted to make while you guys were talking, Internet of Things, having a usable cryptocurrency that's approved by IBM, okay, and the government. This is exactly, I just want everybody to see, this is exactly how Bitcoin becomes GovCoin. It is going to be the wide adoption, and we're going to have everything's got to be connected in, and we already got the distributed, ledger, the blah, 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 if we only do this one little thing. And if you don't, it'll be GovCoin whatever the hell they're going to do anyway, but it's going to wind up merging into that anyway. It is going to happen, and I need to know it's the philosophy of it. Now, Paul, we're good friends, and I get it. But I remember back when Bitcoin was $100 or something, and he's going, we get wide adoption. And I go, well, what will make you happy? Well, I thought it was $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Are you happy yet? I mean, are you done? No, of course not. So my thing is that what is the criteria? I need to have a cryptocurrency that's going to provide all the promises that they kept making to us over the last almost decade now. So if it doesn't, it's just another link in the chain to the crown. We're right back where we started and worse. So I need to, make sure that at least somebody is thinking about this, and we're going to have an alternative. I do understand when you say once you get into the crypto and you start getting out of these fiats and dollars and you can kind of move in, I'm not seeing it's going to be that easy. And what do we see with Russia? Putin's not an idiot. This is awesome. He goes, yeah, as long as I know and I get to surveil, not a problem. I don't get to surveil, that's 13%. Might be worth 13%. But I mean, the thing is that this is how it happens. And you'll have the vast majority, just like Ross is saying, there is going to be a bunch of people for convenience will do this. And they'll be happy and grin the whole way to their surveillance minority report.
Sucks for them.
We need to promote services like Open Bazaar, which can let people sell anonymously without having to pay tax and without paying regulations. Because if people see that they can buy a product online for 20, 30, 40% off with somebody who has good reviews but don't really know who they are versus somebody who's like on Amazon selling it for more, they might choose to save a little bit of money, just like when people found out about BitTorrent and they find that they can, have a very small risk of RIAA on their butts versus saving a lot of money to download a music or a video. They decided to do that. BitTorrent users aren't activists who are against copyright. They just do it for convenience. And in the same way, I'm hoping that people who want to save money, who are not like anti-tax, anti-government activists, will just do it to save a little bit of money. So that's my hope.
Bitcoin can't be valuable if it's not good for being more autonomous. So I just don't think that GovCoin is a problem. Why would anybody buy that?
There's another thing. Every technology that actually makes the blockchain scale to reasonable transaction numbers requires effectively losing the ledger. Lightning networks lose the ledger. They're transactions between two parties that they're passing back and forth, but until they settle onto the blockchain, there's nothing for anyone to see except the two parties that are exchanging transactions. There are this thing called atomic swaps, and Brian Deary posted a blog, he's somebody I work with, not too long ago about how to do those as anonymous parties. Basically, I'm passing you a coin, you're passing me another coin on another chain or the same chain, doesn't matter which, and it only happens if both of us get our coin and send our coin, and yet there is no link between those two transactions. There's just a strange link over here, transaction over here, and a strange transaction over here, and you and I have just passed a secret back and forth, is kind of how it works. So as we move into the blockchain, you literally are creating mechanisms that by their very nature are not auditable at mass transaction levels. Where we are now, every single thing on a blockchain, your scenario is very real, but that scenario just doesn't scale. So unless somebody figures out how to scale a ledger that lets the government see everything, all the solutions to scale actually resolve that problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I mentioned in my talk before this is, I think Zuko had it right when he launched Zcash, that, privacy is going to be required for a lot of use cases. And in fact, business and a lot of enterprise use cases require privacy. And so to Paul's point, I think you're going to get that as we separate sort of the root of security, as Jeff Garzik likes to refer to Bitcoin as, right? This huge amount of proof of work and a trusted ledger, and what people are doing at higher levels to anchor into that, to settle into that. You're not going to expose everything in plain text, right? So I think privacy is certainly an important thing that we need to look at, and trust me, there are a lot of people working on privacy. So you're good, Ernie. We're getting there. It's gonna be a long road.
I trust you guys 8 years ago.
Yeah. Hey, it's come a long way. We're doing.
Pseudo anonymous. Then I looked up pseudo and it means mom.
Hey, look, Ernie, as bad as Bitcoin is, remember, you and I are about the same age. They promised that we'd go back to the moon, too. And so some we are. Some technologies do take some time. I don't think we're going to be anything like a moonshot.
Speaking of those anti-government, anti-tax people, hello. You know, I have a lot of contacts that have more money than God, and I'm really in this weird situation where I want to be heavy involved in blockchain technology, but I'm at a situation where, I mean, in 2009, I was in my college dorm room looking up how to mine Bitcoin, and I gave up 2 hours in because it was confusing and I was stupid. And now I look back very upset. But as a miner and a little bit of investor, where do we move forward? Because, you know, I'm not one of those dummies. I do buy totally from peer to peer. That's how I enter. That's how I exit. You know, the dumbest thing I ever did was sign up for a Coinbase account because now they know that I've looked at Bitcoin, right? How do we go about, you know, for us people who have money that are, you know, we enjoy the idea, and what appealed to us was the libertarian aspect of Bitcoin. When we start making money and start making gains, that healthy balance of will the devil come get us, AKA the government, you know, and making our gains, and how scary is it that in the next couple years they can come get a small fish, maybe sub $1 million a year type people. And how hard is, I mean, right now it's terribly hard. I go to a tax guy and I say, hey, well, listen, I've made this much money in Bitcoin, but here's the transaction, here's my entry point, here's my exit point, here's my entry point on this currency, this currency, this currency. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, how do we move forward from there without being scared that Uncle Sam is going to come kill us and our families and our children?
Well, I wanted to go back to your question first because I had an answer and I didn't get a chance to say. I just want to say, don't accept people's reassurances. Don't let anybody reassure you. Because they're all trying to reassure you. Don't accept that. I don't have an answer for you. Sorry.
Colorado has made pot legal, so I'm just saying. You ask how can you not worry? I'm just saying there is a solution out there.
Yeah, I mean, with your taxes, you have there's nothing. This is not a new problem with blockchain. People have been making money for a long time, and greedy people have been stealing it for a long time, and that's what taxation is. And anybody who doubts that taxation is not theft just needs to look at a dictionary because it defines what theft is. Now, what they'll say is oh, no, what about the schools and the roads? No, we're not debating what it's for. We're debating what the definition of theft is. And the definition of theft, it says if you take something from somebody else without their permission or without them wanting to give it to you, or by force or robbery, it's theft. So taxation is definitely theft, and they've been stealing from us for hundreds of years. So your choice is the same. It's not a new problem with blockchain. You can run for the office and try and change it from the inside, you know, kind of like working as a fry chef at McDonald's. You can help make healthy food, see how well that works for you, change it from the inside. Or you can burn it down from the outside, or you can just walk with your feet. That's the method that I prefer, and that's why I just moved my headquarters of my companies from Massachusetts to New Hampshire, because I want to build $1 billion company, and I'll be damned if I'm going to give those people one single nickel.
Daniel actually already gave you an answer. Don't sell your Bitcoins.
Actually, I did just remember that I learned about something really great at the Hacker Congress that I went to a couple of weeks ago. So we need an anonymous insurance company where you can get a policy against government confiscation. So we need some research that and make that company.
Oh, wait, government confiscation?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to share one thing. Libertarianadvisor.com, exactly your issue. All these gazillionaire crypto nouveau rich guy got whatever. How do you use it? Get it into the same way the Clinton Foundation and Gates and Buffett and all these guys did. We're working on it now to where you guys can bring it in, take a fee, no capital gains, libertarianadvisor.com, and it's not quite ready yet, but it addresses exactly what you're talking about.
Tax advisors are a good thing. Yes, tax advisors are a good thing. All right, round of applause. We're at the end of our time. Thank you, everyone.